Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Thursday edition. Thankful Thursday. Glad to have you spend a few minutes of your day with me. More details on the security failure in Utah at the TPUSA event where its founder, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated just over 2 months ago. We have an update from the firm that was hired to protect Charlie and the latest details. ABC News anchor Jonathan Karl told The Breakfast Club on Monday that then President Joe Biden's decision to run again in 2024 erases almost everything he did as president, noting there wasn't any formal meeting about the decision. It was just left up to Joe. And while we're talking party politics, the Daily Caller reports House Republicans failed to censure Democrat delegate from the United States Virgin Islands, Stacey Plaskett, over her ties to Jeffrey Epstein in a deal to protect one of their own embattled conference colleagues, according to multiple House GOP members. We have those details, too. And a Greenwood woman, a mother of 5, was granted parole this week after serving 6 years for the 2017 death of her boyfriend during a domestic dispute. Representative John McCravey joins us with an update to a case that we've been following for over a year now.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, you know, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Glad to have you with me. Let's jump right in. You know, some of the stories don't fade with the news cycle. Some stories don't get washed away because another headline comes along. And Charlie Kirk's assassination is one of those stories. 2 months after the shooting at Utah Valley University, the questions haven't gone anywhere. The grief is still there. And this week, finally, we heard from the man who knows more about what fell that day than anyone else. His name is Brian Harpole. He's Charlie's longtime security director, former law enforcement officer, and founder of Integrity Security Solutions. He sat down with the Sean Ryan Show, and folks, what he shared with us was kind of infuriating and heartbreaking at the same time, because everything he described, every warning he gave, every request he made, according to him, all points in the same direction. This tragedy may have been inevitable. It may have been preventable at the same time. Harpole's first warning. This is an open-air event surrounded by elevated ground. From the very beginning, and again, according to him, nearly 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk ever stepped on that stage, Harpole's team warned UVU about specific vulnerabilities: the rooftops, stairwells, drone surveillance, officer placement, line-of-sight angles. He said he flagged it early. He said, quote, "We were told the roof was covered." The chief looked him in the eye and said, "I got you covered." But when the gunman took that rooftop, when he set up his rifle, when he found that one narrow angle, 3 meters right, 3 meters left, the roof wasn't covered at all. A rooftop that was verbally guaranteed to be secured was empty, with the exception of the lone gunman. "We can't break the law to do what needs to be done," he said. Now, here's the rub. Integrity Security did everything within the law, and this matters because private security firms don't have police powers. Their jurisdiction ended 30 meters from that stage. He had a little bubble of an area there to protect Charlie. His team, he said, couldn't stop people in buildings. They couldn't climb up on the roofs. They couldn't deploy their own drones without authorization. They couldn't harden areas outside of the immediate buffer zone. And guess what? Almost all of those vulnerabilities they warned about were outside of their jurisdiction. Harpole said it plainly. We can't break the law to do what needs to be done. So we relied on the police, and no one was up there. Now, his integrity team, according to him, brought 12 security contractors, nearly double the number they'd normally deploy on a campus event, he said. They built concentric security zones. He described them as presidential-style barricades and vehicle barriers as well. He thought they were prepared. But the places that actually mattered most, again, the rooftops, that elevated angle, the external staircases, the spots that the killer used, those weren't secured at all. And if the university's police weren't going to do it, you'd think that maybe the city police would have been called in after. After all, the Orem PD has a drone unit, according to him, and a SWAT team as well. Mutual aid agreements exist for a reason, to help one another. But Harpole revealed that Orem police were never asked to assist by the university. A SWAT-certified department with drone Overwatch availability was sitting there unused until it was too late, when they were called in after the tragedy. And then you learn this part, and this one is really revealing. Integrity Security had drones ready to fly, ready to give aerial eyes on the rooftop, ready to eliminate the shooter's advantage, but UVU denied them authorization, according to Harpole. FAA rules, campus rules, policy over safety. As Harpole put it, this is Utah, not Iraq. We can't put snipers on roofs or launch drones. We did what we could within the rules. Within the rules. And the man who killed Charlie Kirk didn't follow any of those rules. He had no regard for rules whatsoever. Mr. Harpole also pointed out, or back to Turning Point USA's event in San Francisco, where he talked about protesters breached barriers, took over the streets, climbed fences, blocked exits, and he said his team had to literally fight their way out. He said, we knew how fast things can go bad. We've seen it before. That experience informed every security request they made for Utah. More officers, more overwatch, more surveillance, more contingencies. And time after time, he said, they were told, we've got it handled. But somebody didn't. Somebody did not have it handled. This is the part that really drives it home, isn't it? Harpole said that from the rooftop where the killer set up, the shot required an extremely narrow angle of visibility. A few steps in either direction, and the shooter could not have seen the stage at all, which means he found the exact unprotected vulnerability that Integrity had warned about. He exploited, I'm talking about the shooter, exploited the exact gap left unguarded, and he used the very rooftop Harpole highlighted days earlier. That's not hindsight. That's foresight that was just ignored. This could probably have been prevented had security, had campus police, had the local police taken it seriously. Utah Valley University says a third-party review is underway. They've hired 8 additional police officers. They've added 2 security managers. They promised transparency. And that's good, truly. They need to keep people safe. But let's be honest, none of that brings Charlie back. None of that changes what happened on that day on September the 10th. None of that changes the fact that signals were flashing red before this event and they were brushed aside. It doesn't change the reality that conservative speakers remain prime targets and they deserve better than empty assurances. We need to take security seriously. Brian Harpole didn't go on television to make excuses. He didn't blame the wrong people. He didn't try to deflect responsibility. He said one thing over and over, just show the facts and fix what needs fixing so this never happens again. And folks, that's what we have to, that's all we can do now, because anything that's changed is not going to bring Charlie back. But we've got to make sure that there's not another Charlie, that another speaker at another university, another politician, another elected leader, whatever, no one, regardless of their party affiliation, their beliefs, is treated the way Charlie Kirk was. Charlie Kirk, I think it's safe to say, should be alive today based on this information. This wasn't just a shooting. It wasn't random violence. This was an assassination. And people sometimes they get upset when you use that word assassination, but that's what it was. When you have private security boxed in by jurisdiction, law enforcement waiting for requests that never came, warnings unheeded, and bureaucratic rules blocking the very tools that could have prevented this, you don't just get a tragedy, you have a massive failure. And that's what this was, a massive failure, the kind of failure that we cannot, should not accept in the future. Because if free speech is going to survive in this country, if conservative voices, or liberal voices for that matter, are going to be allowed on campus without fear, then someone has to say, when they say we've got you covered, they better really mean it. They better have it covered. They better have all of the buildings, all of the sidewalks, all of the parking areas covered to protect those future speakers. Joey Hudson here, and this is it. PhD Weight Loss is running their best deal ever for Black Friday, and it's happening right now. They're waiving your consultation fee, adding 2 free weeks to your program, and even covering the cost of your food. Just mention the promo code Best Deal when you call, and you'll get a discount I can't even say on the air. Every year, the holidays hit, the pounds creep on, and by January, we're all back at the gym. But what if you could finish the year already feeling lighter, stronger, and more confident? That's what happens with PhD Weight Loss. Their metabolic reset system teaches your body to burn fat first, naturally and sustainable. I lost over 30 pounds with PhD, and it changed everything. My coach helped me through travel, holidays, parties. I actually enjoyed the season and lost weight. So don't wait. For Black Friday only, they're offering their best deal ever. Consultation free waived. 2 free weeks. There are 5 steps to reset the scale book, and your food is absolutely covered. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. Mention Best Deal or visit online at myphdweightloss.com. All right, I'm probably going to get in trouble with some of you because I've received text messages. I've received emails from some people saying, look, forget about Joe Biden. I don't want to know about Joe Biden. I don't want to hear about Joe Biden. But I just can't resist because they are living in misery, the Democrats. They is the Democrats because of last year of 2024. They just can't help themselves. And they keep rehashing the hash. The Democrats are living in the past. They're still debating on their ill-fated decision to give the nomination to Joe Biden last year. You know things are bad inside the Democrat Party when even ABC News is out there telling the truth. Here's the latest. Jonathan Karl, the ABC anchor who spent years defending Democrats, went on the Breakfast Club and dropped a little truth grenade about Joe Biden's decision to run again in 2024. And you could just sense the panic in the room. You could see it on their faces. You could hear it in their voices. Karl said that Joe Biden's choice to run again, the decision that ultimately cratered his presidency, the decision that changed the entire course of Democrat politics last year, was never actually discussed. There was no meeting among Democrat leaders. Joe Biden didn't meet with the DNC. He didn't meet with the Democrat Senatorial Committee. He didn't meet with the Democrat Congressional Committee. According to Karl, he didn't meet with anybody. He just one day decided, I'm going to run again, and I want the nomination, and you're going to give it to me. And nobody said anything. It wasn't debated. It wasn't weighed. It wasn't analyzed. Again, Jonathan Karl said there was no formal meeting, no pros and cons. Nobody sat down and said, okay, well, no, Joe, let's talk this through. What about this? Are you going to be able to raise the money? Do you have the energy to do this? Can you win, Joe? There was no should we or shouldn't we. According to Karl, they just went with it. The machine rolled forward, and everyone, the party, the staff, the White House, Kamala Harris initially, just apparently sleepwalked right along with Joe Biden's decision when he woke up that morning, or maybe it wasn't his decision, Jill Biden. Maybe when Jill Biden woke up that morning and said, Joe, you got to run again. You owe this to yourself. You owe this to your family. You owe this to the country. I'm sure there was a discussion between Joe Biden and Jill Biden because she didn't want to give it up. I'm not so sure that Joe Biden would not have gone back home to Delaware and to sit on the beach. But as I've told you many, many times, I think Jill Biden was the driving force behind his decision to take another shot at it. This is the president of the United States we're talking about at the time. It wasn't the PTA president. Even Kamala Harris, in her new book, called it recklessness. She admits that everyone around Joe Biden acted like they'd been, her word, hypnotized. They all kept repeating, it's Joe and Jill's decision. It's Joe and Jill's decision, like a script someone had handed them. And Charlemagne the God, of all people, asked the real question. Why on earth would you leave that decision to him? They should have asked Charlemagne the God early last year instead of after the fact. Jonathan Karl didn't mince words. He blamed the entire Democrat apparatus. He said nobody stepped in to say, hold on, is this actually smart? And apparently inside Team Biden, there's still people who think he could have won. I think Joe Biden himself thinks he could have won. And that Democrats forced him out. Charlemagne's response, put those people out to pasture. Oh, so you see, this is why I like to bring this up and I like to talk with you about it because I think it's hilarious. I think it is just absolutely hilarious that Joe and Jill Biden just decided in their little cocoon that, hey, we're going to run again. There's nothing you can do about it. And they were so insulated that they had no idea what the reality really was. They had no idea what the American people were feeling. They didn't care. All they cared about was power, was holding on to that power. That's all they cared about. Folks, this tells you everything you need to know about the last 4 years of the Biden administration. The country wasn't being run by a true leader. It wasn't being run by competence. It was being run by inertia, a political autopilot that actually was probably being run by Jill Biden. We all kind of suspected that. And that's how we ended up with the border crisis. That's how we ended up with inflation, global instability, and a president who stepped aside only after his own party realized the plane was nosediving. So you say, well, Joey, why do you keep talking about this? It doesn't matter anymore. Well, actually, it still does kind of matter because we're going to be hurting for years to come on decisions that Joe Biden made. And I'm sorry, but as good as Donald Trump is, he's not going to be able to fix all of this in 4 years. That's why we're going to keep paying some of the prices that we're paying because of Joe Biden. They're never going back to where they were pre-Joe Biden, pre-COVID. And that's affecting people in a very bad way. Jonathan Karl calls Trump's comeback the greatest political comeback in history, and it is. It is. It is the greatest comeback. But I call it something more simpler. I think it was just simply America waking up from a very bad dream. Well, folks, wouldn't you think the Epstein circus on Capitol Hill can't get any stranger? Buckle up, because Stacey Plaskett is now on national television explaining why she was texting Jeffrey Epstein during a high-profile congressional hearing. Did you hear this story? On CNN, of all places, Plaskett insisted that she was not forming a friendship with Epstein. No, not at all. She says she was simply getting information from a convicted sex offender because, in her words, as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can. Now, look, we've all heard some wild political spin in our day. But this might need to be in the Smithsonian. So here's what we know. These text messages were sent during the 2019 Michael Cohen hearing. You remember that? Epstein was actively messaging her about what questions she should ask. He is messaging a member of the United States House. Now, she's not a voting member. She's one of those delegates. But she's there. She was there asking questions. At one point, according to the text messages, he tells her, he said, he opened the door, asked about the other henchmen at Trump.org. And Plaskett responded, yep, very aware and waiting my turn. I mean, he's coaching her on how to ask questions during a congressional hearing. That doesn't sound like getting information to me. That sounds like coordination. And why would she and Jeffrey Epstein, why would she have Jeffrey Epstein's phone number, mobile number to begin with? But watch how Democrats circle the wagon. The House Freedom Caucus tried to censure her, and the motion failed. More on that in just a moment. Jamie Raskin jumped in immediately to turn it into a Trump story, claiming the only reason Republicans care is because Donald Trump's name appears in Epstein's files. And remember, this is the same week House Democrats were accusing Republicans of creating hoaxes over Epstein documents. Yet here we are with a member of Congress casually texting one of the most notorious sex offenders of the modern era during an official hearing. And her defense, she actually said this. I talk to criminals all the time, she said. Doesn't mean we're friends. Come on, give me a break. This wasn't a confidential informant sitting in a back room with a wire on. This was a mega donor, a powerful operator, and a man whose crimes were known for years, whispering congressional talking points to a sitting delegate in real time as he's watching her on C-SPAN, I guess. To the average American, this looks exactly what it is. Political influence from a convicted predator. And here's the disturbing part. She still sits on the House Intelligence Committee. These are the folks lecturing Republicans every day about morality, about norms, and protecting democracy, while shrugging off direct communication with a man the country considers one of the darkest figures in American criminal history. But hey, in Washington, there's always an excuse. There's always justification. There's always a reason why their scandals don't count. And that's exactly why Congress is drowning in mistrust right now. But it gets better. The D.C. swamp reminded us again why Americans don't trust either party as far as they can throw them. The Daily Caller yesterday reported House Republicans failed, let me repeat that, failed to censure Stacey Plaskett of the Virgin Islands, despite her documented ties to Jeffrey Epstein during official congressional business. One could expect a simple censure, a slap on the wrist, and even that couldn't get across the finish line. Nothing. The vote was 209 to 214, with 3 Republicans hiding behind voting present. Think about that, on something this straightforward. And now we're learning why. According to several GOP members, including Anna Paulina Luna, Nancy Mace, Kat Kamek, Speaker Mike Johnson cut a little backroom understanding with Democrats to protect one of their own, Florida Congressman Corey Mills. Now, the Daily Caller is reporting that Republicans say GOP leadership protected Mills from a retaliatory censure vote by letting Democrats off the hook on Ms. Plaskett. A trade, a deal, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine type thing. When the issue is Epstein. If you're thinking this is swamp behavior at its swampiest, you'd be right. Plaskett's behavior, reaching out to a convicted sex offender for official congressional guidance, coaching, if you will, warranted real accountability. But not in the modern Congress, where political self-preservation comes first. And the irony here, and there's a lot of irony, Republicans have been hammering Democrats rightfully for weaponizing investigations involving Epstein. GOP leaders keep saying, we want transparency, we want truth, we want accountability, because that's what Americans want. That's what you and I want. We want transparency. We want that truth. We want that accountability. Then the moment comes to hold a Democrat accountable, And suddenly, and again, I'm basing this on the report from the Daily Caller, whom I trust, they're pretty accurate. Suddenly, they say the leadership is shrugging and looking at their shoes. Why? To protect a Republican member who's drowning in controversies back home. Sextortion allegations, questions about military service, financial misconduct, even accusations of religious deception. Whether those accusations are true or not, Mills is in the fight of his political life. And instead of letting the chips fall where they may, House leadership apparently decided to throw Stacey Plaskett a life preserver instead. Nancy May said this: why is Mike Johnson willing to take down George Santos but not Corey Mills? I guess that's a valid question. Conservatives across the country are asking questions as well. Because here's the real story. This wasn't about Stacey Plaskett. It wasn't even about Epstein. It wasn't about protecting victims or cleaning up Congress. It was about power. It was about shielding seats in 2026. It was about Florida redistricting and maintaining a razor-thin majority. And look, those are all important things. We have to maintain our majority in the U.S. House. I'm not saying that we need to risk that. But we got to call a spade a spade. And if it means that a Republican is not doing what they should be doing, we got to hold them accountable too. Yes, we need every single vote. I get that. But we can't be hypocrites. We can't be like the Democrats and look the other way. And, ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly why voters hate Washington. They hate the system. They don't trust the system. Republicans had a chance to take a moral stand on something that was very clear cut. This wasn't rumor. I mean, they had the evidence. They had the text messages. She didn't deny it. She didn't deny texting Jeffrey Epstein. She just claimed that, well, she was gathering information, that she talks to criminals a lot, and that as a prosecutor, that's what she does. I mean, look, again, the GOP had a chance here. Instead, according to the Daily Caller, they went to the back room and made a deal. They went to the back room. Who knows if cigars were involved? I don't know how that's done anymore. You know, the old movies where they're in a back dark room smoking cigars and drinking liquor. I don't know how if that's how it's done. All I know is evidently something was done. A deal was made. And I think the Daily Caller has some pretty good sources if they say that the deal was made because of Corey Mills, trying to save Corey Mills. So, are we draining the swamp? I don't know, folks. Some days it feels like the swamp is winning. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. A Greenwood woman and mother of 5 was granted parole this week after serving 6 years for the 2017 death of her boyfriend during a domestic dispute. Tiffany Carroll was arrested and charged with voluntary manslaughter in 2019 after stabbing her boyfriend in the chest during an argument and following a history of abuse. She was denied parole in 2022, again in 2023, and at one point the state parole board voted to approve her release, but did not obtain the necessary 2/3 majority to secure Ms. Karol's freedom, as a certain violent crimes carry a higher threshold for release. One parole member at the time abstained from voting, while another was absent from the hearing. But fortunately for Ms. Karol, she had a group of advocates who would not give up because they knew that she should be at home raising her children in her community. This week, that all paid off. On our guest line to give us an update is Representative John McCravy. Welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Joey.
Well, what a big win this week. What good news. Now, before we get to that good news, for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with the case, give us a quick overview of what happened and how you became involved.
Joey, this came to my attention as a representative in District 13, Greenwood. One of my constituents, unbeknownst to me, back in 2019, went to jail. She had been abused by this man over and over again. They had called the law to the house at least 8 times before this happened, and she was scared. She was scared to press charges, and I hope women out there can understand that they need to take care of things with law enforcement. They will take care of you and help you. But anyway, at one point, the neighbors even reported that she was being stomped by this man out in her front yard.
Wow.
While she was holding a baby. And the neighbors had to pull him off of her. So this is what had been going on, and she fought back, and the man died. He was a hemophiliac, and as a result, he didn't survive. When they came to the scene, she was trying to help him. But nevertheless, she pled guilty to manslaughter of some kind and got a pretty hefty sentence, but was eligible for early parole.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we when this came to my attention, I couldn't believe, what was going on. And Mary Ann Wingard, who was this girl's teacher all through elementary school, she came to me and told me what a nice person she was, how she had no criminal record, was one of the kindest, gentlest people she'd ever known, and she didn't deserve to go to jail. And so I started trying to work for her. I was convinced, Mary Ann's one of those ladies, she's that retired school teacher that can pretty much get you to do anything.
Yeah.
So she came and got me involved, and Travis Moore, Representative Moore from Spartanburg, was kind enough to help with this and become her attorney. I just continued to be a witness and an advocate for her. And we went down to the parole board, and at 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning, she was freed by the parole board by a vote of 4-2.
Yeah.
It was an amazing day. Thousands of people have been praying for this lady over and over again, and we're just so blessed and so happy. I've been working on it 2.5 years, so it was a culmination of a lot of work and a lot of prayer and the Lord's blessing on us.
Yeah. Representative John McCravy is with me today. There were a lot of people in the Greenwood community who were advocating for Miss Karol's release. I mean, reading this story, and you brought it to my attention a while back. We've talked about it multiple times. People like the Greenwood City Police Chief, the solicitor,
yes.
All were saying, this lady does not deserve to be behind bars. What role did that type of support play in the parole board's decision this week?
I think it made a big impact, and I know one of those members, I won't mention their name, but that member, unless law enforcement recommended it, he would not let them out early. So look, our local police chief has never, I believe this is a correct statement, he has never asked for early release for anybody.
Yeah.
He wrote a letter on her behalf for parole. Our solicitor, who has never, in my knowledge, ever asked for somebody not to serve their sentence, he asked for parole for her. And even the sentencing judge, recognized it, and she's sitting on the Supreme Court now. But I think it's fair to say that she was sympathetic, because in her sentencing, she made her eligible for early parole.
Yeah.
So we had a great case going in. It's just tough in South Carolina to get parole for anybody.
Yeah.
But this was an unusual, and I've never asked for early release for anybody. But there's always a first, and there's always an exception to everything. And this lady needed to get back home to Greenwood to take care of her 5 children that miss her dearly.
Yeah.
So her actions were definitely excusable and understandable, and in this situation. So, man, I'm so glad she's back. It's an answer to prayer.
Yeah. Representative McCravy, when you look back on this case, and I think I probably read everything I could possibly find on it, I mean, you see this history of violence against Miss Carroll by her then boyfriend, William Jamal Johnson. As you mentioned, police responded to the home many, many times. Neighbors seeing this man just stomping her with one of her babies in her hands. Should she have ever been in prison to begin with?
Well, let me say this. I mean, there's some things I think that need to be corrected. I think we ought to have some kind of mandatory prosecution, whether the scared person who's being abused is going to actually step up and speak out against her abuser. I think the state ought to do it.
Yeah.
There comes a point where it's pretty obvious what's going on. And, some of these women fear for their life.
Yeah.
I mean, and she had reason to fear for her life, believe me. So also I've thought, battered women syndrome is not really recognized as any kind of defense by itself. It's a factor, but it's not a defense. I think if you've got a woman who's been beaten like that, we should have some kind of law that says, if she's been diagnosed with battered women syndrome, she ought to have immunity to prosecution of some kind.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to look at that too. It's very difficult. Criminal law is a difficult area to change because it has so many ramifications with it. But man, I tell you, there had to be, at some point, looking back at the history of this, when you got neighbors that are out there seeing her being abused, isn't that enough evidence to go ahead and bring a case?
One would think.
I think the law enforcement should probably be empowered to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look, nobody loves our law enforcement more than I do.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying maybe there's something in the system we can change. Maybe there's a law we can change to make sure these people are prosecuted,
Yeah.
So
anyway. give law enforcement some tools that they can have some discretion in cases like this, because I'm sure it was very difficult for law enforcement to go out there, know the danger that she was in, and not be able to do anything about it.
8 different times.
Yeah.
So I think maybe there ought to be some kind of mandatory thing where they have a good excuse to go ahead and prosecute regardless of who's going to testify.
Yeah.
Representative
Let's
go ahead and get something done.
Representative John McCravy is with me today. All right, so let's talk about next steps here. What is next for Ms. Carroll? Will she immediately be released? I mean, what's the process here?
Well, it's a matter of a few days. So I think the process goes like this. I'm not some big parole attorney. I've never tried to get anybody out but her. But my understanding is that the local probation officer has got to make sure, or parole officer has got to make sure that she has a residence, which she does. He's got to go verify that, or she, and then they have to verify that she is employed, which she's already got 2 job offers I know of. So that should be fairly quick, in a day or two. So I would imagine before Thanksgiving, she's going to be coming home and have a reunion with her 5 children who've been praying for her release and want to go back and live with her as soon as they can.
Yeah.
So,
and are there other programs out there? I mean, you don't just go from prison to being employed and supporting your family overnight. I mean, are there other programs out there that will potentially assist Ms. Carroll?
Well, you can, but nevertheless, yes, Beyond Abuse has said they would help her out. I know there are a couple of nonprofits who have said, look, we'll help her out. Just let us know.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be taken care of. And I'll tell you this, any need that she has in Greenwood, South Carolina, she's going to have met all I got to do is put it on Facebook. If I say she needs something, it'll be done the same day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way this community works.
Yeah. Representative John McCravy, it's always a pleasure, and thank you. I mean, this is just a great story to hear how you and others in the community rallied around this woman, and it's just a good example of the system working the way it should.
Well, Joey, I care about all my constituents, and she's one of my constituents, and I'm going to work as hard for her as anybody else. So I'm privileged to be able to do this. So thank you, Joey.
Well, thanks for going the extra mile and not giving up, you and Representative Travis Moore and others who were involved in this, because, again, looking back over the case, there were times there that it looked like this probably was not going to happen, but it did, just simply because you guys did not give up on her, and now maybe she'll be able to spend Thanksgiving with her family. Representative McCravy, as always, good talking with you.
Same to you, Joey. Thank you for getting this out. We appreciate you.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.